Welcome back, Boss Bitches, to the Boss Bitch Rising podcast. I am so excited to have Natasha Mills on today's episode discussing leadership and what that looks like to really walk into your true power as a leader. And, her and I just share very powerful conversations together. And I want to finally introduce her to you because, oh man, she's fierce, she's fiery, she's intelligent, and she's a go-getter. And she's everything that I love about a woman. And I can't wait to have this conversation with you today. So Natasha, thank you so much for being here with us. If you would like to introduce a little about yourself, who you are and what you do, we'd love to hear it.
So like Kael said, I am Natasha. I have a background in psychology and leadership today. The reason why I definitely gravitated towards this topic is because I feel like that there's not enough people who are actual leaders and followers in leader positions. I hope I didn't lose anybody or anybody got off the podcast right now. But I need you guys to know that some of you are followers in leadership positions, and we need to change that.
I would also like to say a lot of people, there's a difference between influencers and leaders.
Yes.
Or even managers and leaders.
Yes. And there is a lot of people right now who are blurring the lines, especially with influencers and leaders. A lot of people who are blurring the lines of that. And plus celebrities and leaders. Like there's also another blurred line there. And hopefully we can dive into all of that.
Oh, yes, we sure will.
Today.
So I'm curious to know, how would you describe leadership for you?
Leadership is a person that leads from the front and lead from the side. So what I mean by that is leading from the front is like showing someone basically this is the way that you should approach whatever skill set that it is that you have. This is the way that you should approach it. So you're leading from the front, people behind you can see how you are approaching that. And then when you move to the side, they can now approach that as the same leader. And lead from the side for me means that I have now set up other leaders beside me to where I'm not the only smart person in the room in terms of that particular field. So for example, I'm not going to, if I'm the person that's, the obvious boss in the room, right? I am now training other people to pretty much take my place when I'm absent. One thing for me as a leader is that I do not call me on vacation when I have showed you the way, okay? I'm even the type of leader that would do SOPs at jobs that don't even have SOPs, okay? So for that, I am trying to make everyone in terms of their department be their own leader of their department. Because sometimes in leadership, especially when you work for a company or something like that, you're gonna come in and you're not gonna know every single job. They picked you as expert, but you had a niche expert that actually worked for the company. And so with that, I want to teach people in terms of that, I want to be able to learn everything as their leader, but also teach everyone else on how to be leaders in your particular field where you don't have to contact me. If I'm in Maldives, you're not contacting me talking about where are the pens.
Right.
We have an administrator for that.
Can you give us a little bit of background as to, your experience and how you've come into your current level of leadership?
Yes. So I was in the military, and everyone thinks that in the military that you are a natural born leader. And that is false. Okay. When you make particular ranks in the military, so when you, in some rates, and a rate is a job. So in some jobs that you have in the military, there's going to be times of where you could be an E4 and be over 50 people. Okay. So you're E4, you're probably like 19 years old or 20 years old, and they just put you over. You've never led anyone in your life. You didn't even lead your dog to water. Like you've never done anything in terms of leading anyone. And now you're all of a sudden over 50 people, right? So coming with that and having that leadership for myself, I realized that there was immaturity to me, and that you also have to kind of snap it together almost when you make these different ranks. And the friends that you have or whatever, they're in different ranks, and they have this thing in the military where it's like fraternizing. So you can't be like, hanging out with people who are like 2 steps below you, pretty much, because it doesn't mesh well, because your mindset in those different ranks and rates is now is supposed to be different. So you kind of want to hang around the same people. So that taught me something when I got out of the military and started like leading my own people. There was this kind of like, there was this thought process of, okay, so hanging out with the military did teach me was hanging out with other people in my range and finding those leaders within that range can teach you how to be a leader in terms of where you are. So let's start on like the managerial level, right? So when someone is, we'll say something like McDonald's. When someone's at McDonald's, they start on the fries and they go to flipping burgers or something, and then they can do burgers and milkshakes at the same time, okay? With that, now the company has saw something in you and want to put you at a more managerial supervisor level. With that level, there has to be some growth there. And for me, when I was a manager or a supervisor, I still was trying to get out of myself in terms of where I came from in the military, because they don't teach you that real leadership type role. You go into this, now I'm in the civilian world trying to lead the way I led in the military, when it is completely different. And I don't think a lot of people know that, especially coming out of the military. You thinking that you're going to lead people the same way you did in the military? No, baby. They got laws out here for that.
Oh my gosh.
They got laws out here for it.
And that is a very particular niche. I've worked with a lot of transitioning military members, and they say that it's challenging to transition out of the structure and just how everything has its place in the military. And it's a do it because I said so and do it now, then ask questions later type of mentality. Yes. And that doesn't really apply in real life, or, out in the civilian world, I should say. And so it is very interesting how you do have to learn different levels of leadership and types of leadership depending on the environment you're in, the people that you're leading, and as you're elevating through the different levels of leadership. Like you said, being an appointed leader, being like a manager, somebody who's appointed a position of leadership, they might not be a good leader. They might just have been appointed that position and they're still trying to figure it out, and they're probably making a lot of mistakes.
Yes.
But then as they elevate through that, they're, homing in on their skills of leadership, and then they're becoming that trusted leader. So now you can kind of rely on them and count on them, although they're still making their fair share of mistakes. They have usually the best interest of the people they're serving, in mind every step of the way.
Oh yeah. I would definitely say within the last like 5 years, I had to realize that being a leader doesn't mean that you're the top smartest person that doesn't make any mistakes on anything, right? Because a lot of times when you go to different jobs, or you are a leader of yourself in terms of like your business, you are the leader, and then you have people that work under you. People have this way of not wanting to help you because they already think that you should know it all. So then it gives these people this perspective that I do, because I do know it all. I don't need your help. And then you fumbling through all the workbooks and everything, trying to figure out like the hand guides. Okay, what does the company say I'm supposed to be doing? Because no one wants to help. And I think that that's where, in terms of leadership, I have grown the most, is that when I go to a different place, or becoming, or, going somewhere, or, hiring like my own people, there's this way of, now I need to be able to learn from those people. That just because I'm in this leadership position doesn't put me above learning or growing. It doesn't put me above any of that. And I think that a lot of people kind of get into that tie, like, no, I'm the expert. I've been in this 12 years, but you haven't been at this company for 12 years. Right. You've probably been in this field for 12 years. And I can tell you right now, McDonald's don't do burgers like Burger King do. You can't go over there and go, yo, y'all not gonna put the diced onions on there? We don't do that over here, man. We have full onions. It's like the whole ring, okay? We don't do that over here. I know that you were the top person. You're regional over there, but it's different.
Yeah.
And that mindset is how people need to come into different places as a leader. It's almost like humbling yourself a little bit, like, okay, I don't know it all. I am an expert in my field, but at the same time, I don't know how to lead this particular group.
Yeah.
So
I
being
think
able to grow in that.
two of the top qualities that always stood out to me for really high level, high performance leaders is one, being humble, being able to make mistakes, fail, and fail publicly even, but being able to admit when you've made mistakes, and the willingness to learn from the mistakes and continue to grow. I think that is one of the most human assets that every individual has, but we don't always, fully accept the fact of we're going to make mistakes. It's just the inevitable part of being human in the human experience. But that also builds trust a lot faster too, which a lot of people overlook. If we make mistakes and we're just like, I fucked up, I did, but hey, I'm willing to learn. Who knows this? Can you teach me? Can we get to it right now? Let's make time to focus on this. I really want to overcome this challenge. That builds trust so much more effectively within a team than just being seen as the perfect leader that never makes mistakes. But it's almost counterintuitive, right?
Yes. Yes. And I love that you brought that point up, because going back to me, like going from this managerial role to now being a CEO of myself, and also being, top in terms of the companies that I work for, it's this type of, you said it perfectly, building trust. Because the thing is that when you build trust amongst the people that are below you, or that are following you, I like to say following at that point, right? Because I'm trying to build people up to be where I am. I'm not the type of person, I'm not the type of leader that's going to keep you down so you don't take my spot. Because I go to companies and I learn, and I know that I move on. Like once I learned everything, I'm like, okay, that was cute. Now I'm moving on to a different one. And in that time, I want to groom people to be able, I want to see you run your own, team or your own company one day or whatever. And having that trust, because your own employees will throw you under the bus.
They sure will.
Matter of fact, half of them be driving it. They will drive the bus, run you over, and then back that bitch up like, okay, now I need to run you back over.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of times building trust, going back to that cockiness that it has, I know for myself, in one place that I worked at, I was a supervisor over, I want to say like 50 people, right? So at the time, I also was like, okay, as a leader, I need to stay to myself. I need to make sure that I'm, looking out for my people. I've always been a person that's going to look out for everybody, right? So I'm going to look out for my people. And then I, just stay in my leadership role, don't mingle with the help, type of mindset, right? And no one trusted me. No one trusted me. They was like, oh yeah, she'll point you in the right direction. But if she needs something, like if she in a bind, we're going to hide. We're going to go in the closet. Like she can't find us. Matter of fact, I'm sick today. I heard you got a big project to do. Like people have that type of like mindset when it comes to you not being able to trust your leader. And they also feel it when you don't trust them.
Mm-hmm.
Like people, you're not the only intuitive person in the world. They are intuitive too. They can feel it. They also know, you know what? She doesn't even trust me. So why would I even help her or do anything when she don't even trust that I can do my job correctly, which goes into that micromanaging.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where people think that micromanaging is this, I need to make sure that everything is going right, but you're also a control freak.
Yeah.
Yep. And with you being a control freak, why am I doing the job if you're going to do it for me?
Exactly.
Because I'm a definitely, now for me, the type of person that I was as a follower, I'm going to definitely step back. It seemed like you got it, bro. So why don't you do your thing, and I will stay off to the side and just watch you struggle until you ask for me for my help.
Well, kind of piecing off of what you've been saying. So it's like, we've got the aspect of building trust, and then being in a management position, people are looking up to you and they need to be able to rely on you as a leader, knowing a little bit more or a lot more than they do, developing them as the individual. And part of the way that you develop them is to allow them the space to make mistakes, just like you're able to make mistakes, and create the safety of, it's okay that we've made a mistake, but we need to learn from this and move on.
Yes.
And so if it's a one-time, a two-time mistake, cool, leave it at that. Like, don't berate your people for the mistakes, build them up and create support and nurture that relationship, because they're going to trust you more. But this is also equally as productive as building their own self-esteem and making decisions and feeling like next time they go after something, even though they made a mistake, it's okay. I can go do it again and I'll be better this time.
Yes. And I think that with me being a therapist and also being a leader, that's where that like compassion comes in terms that it's okay to make a mistake, because it's not the end of the world. The company's not going to shut down because you forgot to call somebody. You know what I mean? Like some people, some leaders make it seem like that if you make one tiny mistake, that it's going to cause the whole place to just shut down. And when you think of that, now you're creating anxious employees. Now everyone is like, they're on pins and needles and walking on eggshells every time they come around you.
Well, I would even argue to say, is that a leader or is that a manager?
That's a dictator.
Yeah, exactly. Managers manage people. They're hurting people. They're pushing people in a direction and trying to get a result that's beneficial for them or the company. Where a leader takes the whole and is able to build the whole up. Of course, there's going to be some stragglers or people that fall off naturally, but a leader is able to see the group and the individuals in the group and bring the group up as a whole. And so that's where a lot of people, I think, really misconstrue the difference between leaders and managers, where there's a lot of people appointed to leadership positions, but they're not actual leaders, they're managers.
Girl, don't get me talking about appointments, okay? Because a lot of times that just because you are a great friend don't mean I should put you in a leadership position when I've never seen you lead, not even your cat on a walk. Absolutely. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like some people will put people there because they're a nice person or they're a smart person and don't really know what it takes to lead people. Like sometimes you have to be a babysitter sometimes to people who don't know their way. And that looks like someone's going to come into your office and be like, yo, I'm not going to be able to make it tomorrow because my kid, they got this, or my granddad is sick and blah, 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 right? It has nothing to do with the actual job. The part in being a leader and looking at that is not saying, well, if you can't handle the job, then I'm going to need you to, you might not be a good fit here. I've been here 20 years. What do you mean? My kid got sick this one time.
Yeah.
What do you mean I'm not a good fit? I've been here 20 years. So with that, being an effective leader of someone, of having that, they're coming in and, you know, like I said, taking on that babysitter type role. I like to call it babysitting, because when babies come up to the babysitter, they always need help with something, even if it's like the simplest thing, right? And they're coming to you in terms of telling you these different things, even in their personal life, to kind of get like guidance, or will you allow me to like be able to live my life also outside this job? And I think that a lot of leaders, they think about the company first and not the value of the people. And right now we're seeing a huge push on this. Well, people are like talking about it now all over social media. Like, your company doesn't care about you. They only look at you as a number. They talking about it as though it's the company itself, like it has its own brain and entity, when it's the leaders.
Yep.
And it's the way that people are grooming the leaders into thinking about that. Numbers, 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 push them, push them, push them. And then you have people who are burnt out and overworked. And like I said, you guys can turn it off now if you want to, but I'm gonna come with the real shit. If you are treating people as numbers, because you care more about the company than people, people are going to rotate out your building like it's nothing. Retention is going to be sad.
Yes.
No one's going to want to stay under your management. And You have to understand that it's not the company, quote unquote, that is the reason why people are rotating. It's you, baby. It's you. They looking at you.
Yeah.
They don't like the way that you decide that, oh, you know what? I don't give a shit about y'all today. I need somebody to take this patient. But I told you I was sick. Like, I got COVID. Well, you need to find your replacement.
Right.
No, as the leader, you need to find their replacement. You have now groomed everyone. If you leadering the correct way, is that a word, leadering? If you're leadering the correct way, you can put somebody into that position easy. You know what, baby? Go take care of yourself. Do what it is that you need to do. We'll see you when you get back.
Yeah.
Hope you get better. And I'm gonna check on you.
Someone will fill in the meantime. We will figure it out.
Because I have hired all capable people.
Right.
Like I said, when you look at everyone as a number, you're going to put some foolish folks in those positions. They don't know what they're doing. And when you do have that top person that you have is going to get sick or have to go take care of their family member and they can't come to work. Guess what?
Yep.
Because you filled in that seat because you needed a number.
This whole conversation is taking me back to a client session that I had yesterday and what we were talking about right before we hit record. So one of my clients, I'm coaching this client to transition out of corporate and then to eventually open their own business. But, they work for this company and they're in charge of onboarding and offboarding new employees. That's their job or part of their job. And the last 2 weeks, that's all they've done. That's about 40% of what they normally do. The last 2 weeks, that's all they've done. And I'm like, how many employees have you guys lost over the last 2 weeks? And they're like, probably 16 or so. And how many have you brought on? Probably 12 or so. I'm like, how? What is wrong with the inner workings of this company? And when it was really broken down, the owner, the CEO of the company has 5 other companies. This is his 5th company in the latter part of all 5. And doesn't really care about the employees. That's, issue number 1, right? Issue number 2 is the higher ups are making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year when the brand new employees that are being brought on in the state of California are being paid barely a livable wage for the state. Right. So the wage gap between, the top people and the lowest people is insane what the wage gap is. Now, mind you, the people that are top head paid people probably aren't doing very much to make that money, where the lower, the very bottom is they're working 50, 60 hours a week to make $40,000 a year. In California, that doesn't buy you very much here. And so going back to that, you have to be invested not only about the outcomes that you desire for your brand, your company, whatever it is, but you also have to see the individuals that you're leading and understand that if you're not giving them a livable wage, for instance, if you're not trading their valuable, precious resource of time with something that can sustain their livelihood, then they're probably not going to stick around for very long.
Man, that's my whole business aspect. It's teaching people how to have retention on the job. And it starts with leadership.
Yes.
It really starts with leadership. Yeah. And, going back to the point of what you said in terms of those people at the top aren't really doing what they're supposed to do to make the money, right? Now, there's nothing wrong with their pay, especially if they've been doing this for 35 years, they deserve that pay. The part that people lose when they get to the top is how hard it is at the bottom.
Yes.
It's like parents who forget that they weren't with kids. Right? Yeah. It's like, you stop that, stop moving, stop being jittery, stop doing all these type of things. And you're like, you don't remember being a kid and you couldn't sit still? Let the kid be a kid, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, as a parent, you're teaching your kids different manners and different ways to act in public or at home or at school or any of those type of things. And it happens the same way as a CEO of a company with employees. As a CEO of a company, I'm the IT person, the HR person, I am also probably the janitor sometimes, the assistant when an assistant can't be there. I'm all those type of people. Now, I knew what it was when it was just me going to people's homes, organizing shit, touching their shit. I knew what it was like to do that. And it was hard work. I mean, my back would be hurting, knees be hurting. That's when I started to realize, okay, 30 is fucking me up.
But that's part of
30 is taking me out.
Learning to be a good leader is really going through, like, that's part of the reason why I love the show Undercover Boss, because now that person has to go get in the trenches with the people and see just how hard it is to be that minimum wage employee and how luxurious it is to be the leader. Yes, you probably had to work your freaking ass off to get to that leadership position, but sometimes the time and the distance between who we were then and who we are now, we lose sight of just how hard it is.
Yes. And then, that's one thing you cannot lose. You cannot lose sight of how hard it was when you were at the bottom.
I mean, I was just going to say, like, having the compassion for the people that you're leading, for me, is another one of those key qualities that you have to have as that high level leader. Because if you're not seeing the individual, if you're, again, just seeing them as a number, it's really hard to actually lead the individual, therefore creating like a collective consciousness of the group to develop them all forward to get to your desired outcome. You're just going to keep that revolving door open. And in my opinion, if you have too many leaks in your boat, eventually the boat is going to sink.
Yes.
If you have one small little leak, it's going to take a really long time. But if you have this one gaping hole, that the more people that are flooding in and out, it just creates a bigger energetic gap in your company that needs attention, nourishment, and healing in a business sense in order for your company to actually thrive.
Yes. And I think that a lot of people also do not understand in terms of being able to, what that rotating door looks like, what it does to your company's image. Like, that's the reason why we have reviews. It's not just for the customer. We actually got employee reviewing stuff now. Like, don't work for this company. They do not care about their people. Every time I see those type of things, when I look at companies, it disturbs me so much, because I know that the people there are being looked at as a number and not a human being.
Yes. That's also part of the reason why I think customer service nowadays is just becoming non-existent, unfortunately. I feel like it's more common to get some crabby panties in a bunch person at, you know, the checkout counter than it is to have somebody who's actually like happy to be there and happy to greet you just with a smile. Nothing, no big deal, but man.
And also teaching your employees. So that's where it comes in terms of like us being a leader, right? Being able to be a leader, you sometimes have to come to work and detach yourself from your everyday life. Still bring your personality, still bring your higher self, but detach from your everyday life. If my dog tears up my couch in the morning and now I have to go to work, I'm going to be pissed about it. Matter of fact, I'm going to be pissed the whole ride there. Like, damn, I got to look for another couch. I got to call these people, I got to order now. I got to spend some money I don't have to spend, whatever, right? When I get in those doors, it's about the service that the company is have, and it's about the employees that are following me. I need to show people that, yes, you wouldn't know that I had a bad day, but my day started off pretty rough. But I can detach that enough to be able to come into here and still do my job, because my job has to be done and your job has to be done. If you feel like that whatever has distracted you for the whole day, for me as a leader, I'd rather you not come to work that day. Let this be your mental health day.
Absolutely. I want you to share with us a time when poor leadership affected you.
Oh, girl. How much time we got?
I know we all have stories for sure.
Poor leadership. Man, it was actually my first 4 years in the Navy. And I had this one chief that was basically, if you think of like in a regular world, he's the supervisor, not the manager. He's like the supervisor, right? So I had this one chief, and I had chose to go out and go reserve and I had got married at the time, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go reserve, but I'm going to go for my passion in terms of becoming a psychologist. He told me that you'll never make it. That's a dumb idea. I don't know why the military is all you got. Now, in terms of being a leader, that's not what you want to tell your employee. He thought that he was telling me the right thing that was going to make me change my mind. But what he hadn't realized, because he didn't know me as my supervisor, that you tell me I can't do something, now I'm gonna go hard as hell. I'm gonna go so hard that you're gonna wish that I was still on your team. Okay.
And look at you now too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I hope he could see me. At the same time, he taught me that speaking life into your employees is a very valuable thing.
Wait, what?
Speaking life into your employees.
He taught
me that.
A true man of his word, right?
Right. Because for me, he did not speak life into me. I couldn't thrive in his environment. When you speak life into your employees, they thrive.
Absolutely.
In your environment.
Well, so this brings me to my next question then. How do you deal with whether you're in a leadership position or you're being led by somebody, people whose values or integrity just don't quite match with either what they've been preaching or with your own values and integrity?
So, in terms of being able to go as a leader, right? And let's say you have a co-leader with you. There's someone that's also beside you. Now, when I bring things to the table, I'm all about, you know this about me in terms of integrity. Like when I am telling people or speaking to people, I want to make sure that my words hold a huge bond. And I need a partner that also does that. But when you work in either a corporate world or you work for a private practice or something like that, there's going to be that type of person that's also a leader with you, that walks beside you, that does not follow those same things. The one thing that's very hard about having someone who doesn't hold that same integrity and communication skills and honesty that I hold when it comes to being a leader, it's almost like I almost have to, they're walking, but they're leaving breadcrumbs behind them and I have to sweep them to keep it neat. And it's so exhausting to do that. So I usually will pull that person to the side and be like, can we just have like a boss to boss type of like talk? And are you open to hearing something that probably is about your job performance? Because I also want to make sure that the person is open to it.
Exactly.
Because one thing that I am as a leader, I always make sure I ask you, are you open to hearing some feedback? Now, most people are not going to say that they're not open to it, right? And then my follow-up question is, are you in the right mindset to also hear this feedback? Because that's very, very important. So when it's someone who isn't doing that, who isn't having the same integrity as it is for myself as being a leader, I'm now going to want to talk to them to figure out where's the disconnect? Where can I help you? Like I'm hearing feedback from my employees, like they're like, well, I like Natasha more and I don't like Stephanie. Stephanie suck. She come in here and she flashing that, that she's the boss and like all of these type of things, but she helped us with nothing. How come you're the only person that's working? And for me, in my mind and in my brain, I'm thinking, damn, I'm the only one working? That's wild. We need to change this power shift. Yeah. It needs to be an equal team that needs to be working. So how do I come to them and be able to tell them these things in terms of like feedback and being able to accept it? Now, if you're not the type of person that can take feedback or criticism, I don't really like to call it criticism because that just makes it sound like you finna go in there and roast them. That's not your intentions. It's more of like constructive. I want to give you I want to give you some positive feedback, and what I like to do is a compliment sandwich, so it doesn't sting too hard, right?
Yeah,
I think of it like an Oreo. Like the black part is the good compliment part, and then the white part is like, I'm gonna sting it. It's gonna be a little spicy in the middle, right? So with that, if someone doesn't have that integrity in terms of now we're both like a team here, we're our own two-man team that has to look over all these people. I'm first gonna like talk about all your great points, all the things that you're doing well, and the strengths and how it's making this company better. Then I'm going to kind of give you the parts that your weaknesses, that you're not doing well, the feedback that I'm hearing back from other people. And then I'm gonna wrap it up. But them strengths blowing us out the water.
Yeah.
You know, kind of just keep giving them that, because a lot of people are more susceptible of like hearing for some, they like a compliment sandwich.
Yeah. This really reminds me of a scenario that I had with a former business partner of mine. And there were a lot of practices that were totally out of alignment with values and what I thought to be ethical business practices or just having integrity. And it were things that really weren't in alignment with me at all. And I watched it happen for a little bit, subtly brought it in, watched it continue happening, brought it in again. Like, you know, when I'm saying bring it in, I'd actually address the behaviors. And it was like dismiss every time that I would bring it up. Yeah. And so finally, like we had a hard sit down because I saw this happening in their personal life, their other business, and in our business. And I was like, this is something that doesn't align with me. And this is not how I'm going to operate business moving forward. Yes. So if we can't align on not doing these behaviors anymore, I don't see there being a longevity here with us being business partners, because this is a non-negotiable for me. Yeah. And their response was basically, well, this is the way that I do it. And I don't know why you care so much. We're the leaders here. And so what we say goes. And it was basically kind of like fucking over the people that we were supposed to be leading.
Oh, man.
And it crushed my soul.
Do we live a parallel life or something? Or?
Right? I think we really have, honestly. But it was like trying to relate how important this was to me. I have a huge heart of service. And what is the opposite of that is fucking over the people that I'm serving. And yes. I can't be doing the same thing and calling it, oh, but I'm doing so much for all these people. No, I'm not. I'm using the people to get something for myself. And
oh God, yes.
You have to see it for what it is. And I saw that for what it was. And I was like, I can't keep aligning myself with this person. And so I brought it up, multiple times. And eventually, honestly, what ended up happening is we just had to split and dissolve the business and, kind of dissociate ourselves from one another, because their integrity and my integrity are two completely opposite definitions. And what I value in life and what I value in life and business are both very different. And, coming to that realization in a working space was difficult because I deeply cared for this person and I valued them in so many ways, but there were just too many unethical practices that were taking place that allowed me to see that if I continued to do business with the person, not only am I putting what's really important to me, to the side and ignoring that, but I also see this going really bad in the future.
Yes.
Because we were leaving like bombshells everywhere. And I'm like, I can't, this isn't okay. This isn't right.
Exactly. I mean, I just went through that with a company that I was trying to join in terms of doing something when it comes to money and people. And seeing that integrity that I thought, like, especially when you first meet them and you're friends with them and everything. I'm the type of person that I am going to look at you as you are. And when I start seeing the red signs, like, I'm not going to wait till you mess me over. When I see you mess other people over, I'm going to learn from their mistakes. Yes. I don't need to learn that same mistake, right? So in terms of integrity, that's such a hard thing that people, they would pretty much lose themselves trying to hold up that person's non-integrity and dishonesty. Mm-hmm. And for me, I can't sleep at night, literally. If I know that you're messing people over and I'm a part of it, I can't sleep at night. And I love to get my rest. I absolutely love it. Right. Okay. I don't look this, they call it beauty sleep for a reason. Like the thing is that something in the pit of me just doesn't sit right with it. And sometimes I feel like that when people are those type of people that mess over people in terms of integrity, when they're, especially when they're leading people and they're teaching them that same wrong behavior,
Yeah.
I'm like, how do I reach them without them pretty much, like looking at me as a bad person?
Mm-hmm.
And part of that too, I don't really care if you look at me as a bad person because I'm trying to teach you better. But the other half of it is like, who are now you're going to tell that I'm a bad person because I tried to teach you better?
Well, it's also like this too. A lot of people in leadership positions see that they see themselves as I can do no wrong. Therefore, if you come to me and challenge me or question me in any space, you're automatically wrong and you're X'd out. And so you might find that too, like when you speak up about something that feels out of alignment or, the level of integrity feels much different. If you speak out against it, a lot of times these people are, erring towards narcissistic personality tendencies. So they'll gaslight you.
Not a tendency, it is. It is what it is.
Right. Yeah. And so they're not going to fully accept what you're saying. They're not going to fully hear what you're saying. And they're going to paint the picture of you're the wrong person. And then even go as far as to shame you publicly. Like, look at how bad this person is, saying that I'm a bad person.
Right. Right. And it's and that's one thing that I'm always like really careful with when it comes to me talking about someone else's integrity. Because people are going to ask, like, why you don't work with such and such anymore? And I'll be like, well, there wasn't an alignment.
Right.
Honestly. And I want to come from a place of like, I try to approach everything with love, because that's normally how I operate. I try to approach everything, whether it's relationship, whether it's working in relationships or anything. I try to approach and talk to people with love, because like I said, I want to speak life into you to where you feel like I got something from that, instead of it coming like I'm criticizing you and making it seem like that what you're doing is extremely wrong, even if it is.
Right.
I don't want you to feel that way because it shames people.
Right.
And that, in terms of a great leader, can be able to tell you your fuck ups without you feeling shamed.
Mm-hmm. But part of that too is coming in. So they've given you the feedback, but then coming in to support you in developing you to that next level through the healing, through the self-awareness, through all of those other things that we need in order to get to that next level.
Yes. And that's what I was trying to do in terms of that person, trying to help them, because, they were trying to help people create businesses, but they still wanted to treat you like you were an employee. And that wasn't, no, if I'm creating my own business, you don't treat me like an employee. That's not how this works. So if we're all on a team, then you should be able to listen to your teammates. Like I said, when you are a CEO or you are a supervisor over a company, you're hiring people who have, for one, very specific skill sets and knowledge that you probably don't have. I like to learn from my employees. When I'm talking to them in interviews and they say something that perks me up and I'm like, oh, I've never heard that before. Wow, that's something that'll be a great asset to this company or to this business. Being able to learn from those people. Yes, they're not going to know the job, because just like you came into that company and didn't know it, they're not going to know it as well, but they have this niche and this knowledge to enhance that company. Mm-hmm. So using them to help you.
Yes.
Don't be a dumbass. Use them to help you.
So let's finish this episode with one good story of positive leadership that influenced you in a way that's, encouraged you in some type of way or helped you get to where you are now.
Yes. So it was actually an intern that I did. And this particular person was, when I think about emotional intelligence, this person embodied it. Like having that sympathy, that empathy, and that compassion for everyone that was around them, while also being a super strong leader. And I remember saying, I'm going to be her when I grow up. I'm going to be her. So as I was there, she was a great mentor. She was one of those people, because she knew that this was an intern. She either was going to groom you to stay at the company or was going to groom you to be the best you could be outside the company. Mm. And that to me was like that was the best leader I had ever seen in my entire life. Like I was like, yo, when I when I win a Nobel Peace Prize for taking leadership to a new level, you're coming with me because you helped me on this trajectory that I am in terms of being a great leader and a great boss. And that's where it comes from in terms of like what I teach with my company. That's what we do. We go in places and we teach people how to be a leader. Because if in psychology, so there's this there's a part of psychology that works with autistic children. It's called ABA therapy, applied behavioral analysis. And what that does is it teaches autistic kids social skills. And I said, how do I apply that to atypical people? People who are like driven. They've gotten the business so far. They're number driven. They know how to like market. They know how to get people in there. But how do they also have compassion, empathy, and sympathy? Because those things is what human beings need.
Yes.
And this lady embodied that. Like, I mean, every time that she turned around, she was like, I'm hitting it. And I was like, she don't do no wrong. Like, and I loved it. And she also brought into that vulnerability. She allowed you to come in, feel safe in that space, and be able to talk about whatever was going on in your life and how you can also apply that. Like as therapists, you also have to sometimes apply that to your own clients.
Absolutely.
Like, how do I can go through my own thunderstorm and still make you see that you can come out of a storm?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So with her, she was able to do that and just in everything when it came to like leadership. And I was like, yo, that's the leader that I'm going to be. Having that emotional intelligence is so pivotal in being a leader because we're trained. You think that a leader is supposed to be a robot.
Yes. I was just going to say, like, I love that you shared this story because most people, when they think of leadership, they think of a more masculine, really broad shoulder, chest out, kind of strong voice, loud voice. No feelings, able to project. They kind of like walk over people. They're highly successful. There's all these very masculine traits with leaders where the most influential leader in your life and any of the most influential leaders that I can recall in my own personal life have all actually had more softer qualities. They were still very strong, but they could see you and accept you and hear you and understand you as the individual and created that safe space and had compassion and extended a deeper level of understanding and time to the individuals that they're leading.
Because we're all humans at the end of the day.
Yes.
The Devil Wears Prada taught us that. Like, she was hardcore the entire movie. And then at the end, you saw a little glimpse of her being a human being.
Yeah.
And how old girl, like, she was like, oh, well, it's kind of too late at this point for you to be a human and want to keep me here because you treated me like shit the entire time. So if you already come with that human being aspect and that perspective and that compassion, people are going to either want to stay with you and ride or die with you till the wheels fall off, or they're going to thank you when they are their own leaders at these different companies because you are the embodiment of what they wanted to be and who they wanted to be.
Yes, it creates this culture of, I mean, if you even think about it, how much time we spend at work is typically more time than we actually spend at home with our families.
Yes.
Because when we're at home with our families, you know, we're rushing around in the morning to get to work. Then we're at work for 8 to 10 hours. Then we're in traffic. And then now we're at home for maybe 3 to 5 hours awake with our family. We spend more time during the week with our company than we do with our own families. So if you create a culture of we are family, we are one, you come as you are, and let's grow together. That creates a culture where that same energy is hopefully going to trickle out in how that person shows up to, treat their own family members or the random person in the grocery store, and just creates a culture of integrity, of compassion, of empathy, of all of these other high qualities that we should look for in not just leaders, but within our own self and how we're showing up in the mundane parts of our day too.
Yes. Like the hiring process has to change.
Yes.
In terms of, we always ask these technical questions like, what would you do if a customer came in and blah, blah, blah? What would you do if you're having a bad day and a customer came in having a bad day? How do you react to that? How do you detach yourself from your personal life and bring it into work and be able to kind of just do that same thing?
Woosah.
Yeah.
And some emotional tapping.
Yeah, that's why I love the Japanese way of working. In terms of, yes, they work for very long hours, but they have a time of meditation with everyone to just come into yourself, calm your nerves down right now. All anxiety that's pent up in terms of wanting to do a great job today. Let's all understand that we're human, we make mistakes, and let's just come center with ourselves in that moment.
Yes.
And that's the kind of like mindset I bring to my employees in terms of, I want for us to look like a family more than when people come into the company and they're like, you don't like her or something? As the customer,
Yeah.
if I can tell that you don't like your boss,
yeah,
that's a problem. That's a huge problem.
Yes.
And I'm like, for me, it's more in terms of the reason why I like to think of my employees as my family is because, for one, I strategically hired you to play a part in the family, right? You got the mom, you got the dad, you got the auntie, you got the uncle, you got the cousins. Like, everybody plays their part when you think of a family system. And it's the same thing in terms of the employment of your employees. Like, everybody plays their own special part. You already know that you're the person who knows this. You're the person who knows this. And how do you teach that to everyone else so they have an idea of what that looks like, to have that family aspect of it? Because one thing I'm not going to allow is some rando to come into my company who think they are bigger than us. No. We work here in order to be able to teach people. So whether you choose to stay or to leave is not a bad thing. Right. Neither one is not a bad thing. And that's where leadership has to come. So it first starts at that hiring process.
Yes. The people you choose to bring in, and then every step of the way from there is just as important.
Yep. Stop letting the CEOs who don't even know what's going on at the bottom pressure you into putting somebody in the seat.
Yeah.
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 And a rotating door.
That's an interesting, fact that you just pointed out, is like the CEOs, most of the time, there's such a gap between the upper level management, the mid-level management, and the lower level management. The upper level management has no idea what's going on at the mid and lower levels. Typically, they're just being reported to from that middle level. And so a lot of the time not almost all the time, not a lot, almost all the time, it's that upper level developing that mid-level and then making sure they have the quality individuals in that mid-level tiered all the way down to the hiring process. And then, I would even argue to say, especially with larger corporations, having an individual that all they do all day long is allow their employees to have that space of getting the job training, a sounding board, like, how can we help? Who do you need? What skills and resources do you need? How is your job not working for you? Why isn't it working for you? And gathering as much information as you can so you don't have that revolving door, because in the end, that costs you more money because you waste a lot more time developing people.
So let me blow your mind a little bit. Okay. Companies do have it. It's called HR.
Yeah, but HR is not doing anything except for taking the complaints.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. They already have the resource, because if you look at how HR is, what they study all of those things in terms of developing the diversity, the culture of the climate. They have all of this knowledge.
Yeah, but
what they're focusing on is, I'm going to take the complaint and then we'll see what happens from there. Instead of actually thinking about taking those complaints, because complaints are important, especially when you get in the same complaint. Now that means that a change is needing to come. So now, how do we develop this change and for it to be a satisfactory space for everybody who works here?
Yep.
So it's not that they need to just bring somebody else from God knows where. They have it right on their team.
Yeah.
They have it right there with the thing. And a lot of people are always, this is one thing that I want to help change in terms of the way that people look at HR when it comes to having that for a company. HR is supposed to be for the employees and the employer, right? A lot of times HR is looked at for the employer only. And the employees feel like that they don't have anybody on their side.
Yeah.
They're just there for HR to correct them, to file some papers for them, to make sure that their taxes is coming out. Right? But when you have the talent, what they call it, acquisitionist or whatever, the person who goes out scouting and all of that, those are the people who also, not only are you supposed to be recruiting, but you're also supposed to be helping the ones that are already there.
Yeah.
You're recruiting to look for more people that will complain.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I just don't understand is like, how are we supposed to create a culture when you don't have enough hands-on time with the individuals? You're just going to continue to create this revolving door. And I see that not only in large corporations, but small businesses and just out in the real world, where if we just kind of approach things with that leadership mindset of how can I positively influence and impact this person's day? How can I lead with more compassion? How can I create a safer space? How can I take things less personally?
Yes.
And the level of impact and influence you can have on the lives of just the random dude at the gas station or the person that's the CEO at your company can be so immense by just kind of adopting in those principles as a part of your operating system.
Yes. Like, and this is not me trying to put more psychologists in jobs, but I am. There needs to be a psychologist on site that can talk to people for those particular things. A psychologist that also knows the business, that knows how the business is ran, how different people need to be able to operate in order for them to be able to do that, so that they have someone to bounce those particular things off of. Because one thing I hate is a thing that's happening in my job and coming and telling my friends and my family.
And they have no idea what you're talking about.
They don't know what the scales are supposed to be or what the skiff is. They have no idea when I'm talking about these different things. They're like, oh, okay. Oh, that's one of the top secret rooms. Oh, okay, that's cute. They have no idea how important those particular things are. But if you have someone that's on site that is able to, what you just said, help people manage their emotions. You come in, you set an appointment, right? You spend that time, and the company should allow that.
Yes.
Like, have that 30 minutes a day to go in there, to talk to someone, bounce those particular things. How do I approach my boss? Because I want to be able to tell my boss that I need to go part-time, but I'm scared. they're going to fire me or blah, blah, blah. How am I able to do that effectively?
Yeah.
No one has that type of person to kind of bounce those things off. And right now, the leaders have to be able to fill that position. And also not take everything that people are saying as a personal attack on your leadership.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That also means that the leader also needs to be doing the same level of work that the people beneath them are doing in order to not take things so personally.
Yes.
And really be able to be more flexible. But man, we've shared so many amazing points in today's episode. I know that you have your own podcast and a couple other ways that our listeners can find you. So if you'd like to share those with us.
Yes. So my podcast is Let Me Touch That podcast. I'm on all podcasting platforms. Basically, mine is probably a little bit different than what Kael has going on. We cuss a lot on that particular podcast.
Well, invite me on, girl, because I'm ready to let loose.
Yeah. We cuss a lot on there. It's where people can get their frustrations and talk about the taboo topics of the world that everyone is kind of afraid to talk about in terms of different levels. And I talk with people who are different walks of life, different jobs of life. And they kind of talk about what is behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know that needs to be in the forefront about it. Now, if you could possibly lose your job, I'm not the one you should be talking to. I'm not the one that you should be talking, or maybe you should come on there with the alias.
Right.
Because we really get into the nicks and cranny and the taboos of what it is just about life in general, not just with jobs and businesses. But yeah, so Let Me Touch That podcast. We are also on Instagram as Let Me Touch That podcast. If you want to talk to me personally, I am _your hair crush. and it's spelled just the way it sounds. And my business that also teaches and helps with leadership is at What Mess _
Love it.
Yeah, that's how you guys can get in touch with
Yeah,
me.
we will have all of those in the show notes for this episode. But Natasha, thank you so much again for being here with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I know for a fact that you're going to be back because you're just such a multifaceted, multi-talented, multi-knowledgeable human being that
Thank you.
there's definitely a lot more juicy topics that we can get into at a
Oh,
later
for sure.
Yes.
Yes. I'm excited.
Thank you so much again.
You're welcome.